Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the music rating, ranking, and reviewing podcast that we like to call Music Meltdown, in which we rate, rank, and review any artist's discography, songs, musical topics, really whatever comes to mind. This episode, we're honing in on musical topics with a new series, essentially just a bit of album recommendations. Essentially, Grant and myself here, we're going to be giving each other 5 different records to listen to weekly, bi-weekly. We'll see how this goes. Really until we get bored of it, I suspect, because this has been a fun start. Essentially giving each other 5 records that at least we think are really cool, we think the other one would like, are really important to us. We're going to try and bring in some themes, whatnot, but for now, we're just going with 5 records. So we've given each other the 5. I've listened to each of them twice. I'm not sure how many times you've listened to some of these.
And pretty much about the same.
Nice. And I'm really happy with the selections that we've given. I think that they're really cool. Kind of to showcase some insight into each of our tastes. And with that being said, Grant's going to kick it off with the 5 records that he gave to me and sort of just some brief overviews of his experience and thoughts on them. Or maybe not thoughts on them. Maybe we can just do like your relationships with the albums, like how you know the artists or whatnot.
Sure, absolutely. So the 5 albums I came up with, I kind of wanted to go a bunch of different things. I like a lot of different genres, so I wanted to kind of put a foot or at least put an egg in each basket. So I got a post-hardcore album with the Hotelier with Home Like No Place There Is. Personally, one of my favorite post-hardcore albums, especially of the 2010s, came out in 2014. Really, really cool stuff. Got it from a friend of mine. And just a lot of the songs hit on a very personal note for me and some of the things I grew up, for some of the friends I had and experienced with. So it's just a very touching album, but it's also done very well. So that's a very exciting one for me. I went then into a Sybient genre, which is basically Shpongle with Tales of the Inexpressible, which is just one of those albums that is, you almost feel it more than you're like just listening to it. It's almost like a 4D album where it just really has a lot of textures, has a lot of sounds, has a lot of things. Gets good headphones for that one. That one I experienced obviously with some very good friends, with some very good times, and that album has led me on many journeys, and I absolutely love it. We went to the hip hop genre as well with Jizza and Genius with Liquid Swords, which is quite possibly one of the greatest rap albums, in my opinion, ever made. It is brilliant. It is basically the second best Wu-Tang album for me. Really, really cool. Really, really good stuff. Absolutely love that. I went into some older punk with Dead Kennedys, Fresh Fruit, Rotting Vegetables. That's one that I discovered. Obviously, I think probably the first time I ever really heard them was like Tony Hawk when they had Police Truck on there. And then eventually, I remember hearing my friend play the riff for California Uber Alleys. And it was like I didn't know what it was from, but it stuck in my head. And then immediately when I heard that song, I was like, that's what he was always playing. Okay. So that song always had a special part to me. Holiday in Cambodia, of course, for being on Guitar Hero. But once I finally got into that album, it was just like, it's such a ride. And then number 5 was kind of a crazy little group with Death from Above 1979. You're a Woman, I'm a Machine. I forget who showed me that album. I want to say it was in college. I had a friend who was super into music, and he showed me a lot of very interesting bands. And that was one where, I mean, it's 2 members. It's a bassist and a drummer. And the bassist runs some crazy effects through his guitar and makes some crazy sounds. They have a lot of energy, frenetic pace, really cool group. And definitely think that was going to be one that you might like quite a bit. Those are my 5 records.
Nice. Yeah, interesting to get into those, but the 5 that I gave you, the first one, I wanted to go a bit outside of my typical region, a record that I love a ton. I went New Day Rising by Husker. Really just killer. They're veering away from that hardcore punk scene, but you still got the roots of it. Just super energized, and you got some absolutely killer, just heavily distorted guitar tones. Love the hell out of it. You of course have Bob Mould and Grant Hart who are both great vocalists and great lyricists within punk as a whole. So I'm really into that record. I didn't give you anything below 4.5 stars on my scale. I think all of these records are great. So it'll be interesting to see how you break my heart. Number 2, it's going to be the record Peaceful as Hell by Black Dresses. I absolutely love the sort of modern hyperpop, sort of industrial pop scene. I think Black Dresses with Peaceful as Hell really just bring out everything that I want within the genre. Very LGBTQ plus as well. So love that. Number 3, going into the 90s with a bit of dance punk here, sort of electro punk with Anarchy by Chumbawamba. Chumbawamba are a group that I really got into via Mike the Snare's Deep Discog Dive. I heard some tracks in there and I was really interested in it. I listened to this album and I think that this group is just a whole hell of a ton of fun. If you can't get into the sentimentalities of the political nature of the lyrics, I get it, but I love all the voices in the band for one thing, and I think that just front to back, it's super fun. Afterwards, going from fun to satire, I have Sail Away by Randy Newman. Randy Newman, beautiful composer, and his lyrics are just to die for. Sail Away, probably his crowning achievement for me. Then number 5, I just wanted to slow it down with just some kick-ass rock and roll music. I'm going Because of the Times by Kings of Leon. Kings of Leon and their first 3 records were all just really, really killer rock music. Just great band. I really like the singer. I know you disagree, but I don't know. I just think they're a killer band. The drum work on these records are awesome, and Because of the Times is my favorite example of that. So yeah, those are my 5 records. Really fun how this whole thing came together. You want to kick it off by telling me which one of these albums that I love you like the least? Although I have a feeling I might know who it is.
And you actually you just mentioned it. So at my number 5, I had Kings of Leon. And don't get me wrong, 3/4 of the members of this group is fantastic. The instrumentation on this album is killer. A lot of really cool, just really cool song structures, sequences, a lot of cool riffs that were thrown in here. It's definitely not something that was, played and then copy and pasted and just kind of thrown throughout. You can tell that like there's a lot of really good instrumentation going into here. And then the singer sings. And it quickly wears on me. Like, don't get me wrong, like Knocked Up, I'm listening to that and I'm like, I like this. This is good. I actually didn't even really mind the singer. I was like, okay, I get what we're going for here. It's pretty good. I liked had kind of almost an outlaw country sound to it, with like the bass and the drums, little light guitar touches. Did drag on a little bit in 7 minutes, but I didn't really care too much about that. It was once Charmer came in. Charmer was a pain to get through. Shrill, just like peaking like nails into my brain. It was I don't know. And like I like the stuff going on in the background. Like right near the end of the song, there's a cool little part where like the bass and the guitar, I feel like are kind of going at it with each other, and the singer's not doing much. And like I'm like, yeah, all right. And he comes back in right to end the song. And I'm like, yep, all right. But yeah, that's really the only song that really hurt the album, because it was after that, and then it was just kind of like, now I notice how much I'm not vibing with this guy. And so the following songs kind of started to get wear on. It was kind of good that it do for the second listen, where it was like, okay, I can kind of get used to the vocals. I can understand that they're there. I can, really get more into the music and not focus on something like that. And I mean, the following songs are pretty good. Instrumental's really dope on following songs. I love the solo on Call. Just again, though, the vocals on these ones, it was like, I didn't mind it on Knocked Up. And then once we get to On Call and Make Fearless, I'm starting to like, now I'm flipped. Now the coin's on the other side. Really cool bass riff on My Party. Although all I kept hearing the vocalist say was, she saw my potty, and I couldn't unhear that. And yeah, I think my favorite song though, I have 2 actual favorites. Fans was a really good song. Really liked that quite a bit. That's probably my favorite with his vocals. And the instrumentation is also really good. Lots of cool drum fills throughout there and the guitar riffs. And then the last track, Arizona, I really, really loved that guitar riff that they were playing throughout it, just really cool. I didn't like the fade out at the end. I'm not a big fan of fade outs. It is what it is, though. I think it was the only song I think that had a fade out, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean, again, the instrumentation was awesome. I loved all the instrumentations. I would love to hear like an instrumentals, or something maybe. But yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the voice. Was at a 3. Upon re-listen, we bumped it up to about a week 3.5. So
Yeah,
thank God for second listens.
that's fair. I knew it was coming, so it's like I'm not upset about it. And you had plenty of good things to say. So
that was the only one I spoiled for you. So
yeah,
you kind of knew that was coming.
I did. I was worried that something else would go below it, though, and I'm glad that's the case. Here's what I'll say. I really like his voice. I think it's got like this really cool kind of southern fried element, which is a little bit there in their music. You can tell they started out as like a rootsier kind of, I'm not gonna say country rock, but like a very rootsy band, but adding in a little bit of blues flair. This one they're kind of toying about that indie rock sound. I think it's just killer. And I love his personality, which evidently, I mean, it doesn't click with you, but I think it really elevates the songs. It is what it is, though. There's some voices that people just aren't going to love. And after Regina Spektor, I feel like you kind of deserve the right to jab at me for vocals. So, that being said, however, my list actually changed around a lot because of re-listens. Here's what I'll say. I liked all of these albums. I have all of them at the very least at 3.5 stars. I think that these were all good albums, and I think you did a really good job. And the record at the bottom for me was at one point my number 2, which kind of just goes to show how strong I felt these records were to a degree and how much the re-listens really affected things. At the bottom for me, however, I'm going with You're a Woman, I'm a Machine by Death from Above, 1979.
Okay, whoa. Yeah. All right.
To clarify, I did really like it. I think it's got a really cool kind of dance punk energy. I believe, aren't they mainly a bass and drums band, correct?
Yep. That's all it is, bass and drums.
Yep, and I think that they're able to really add a ton in with that sound. I'm not sure the vocalist name. I think that he's really good, has a ton of energy to him, really lifts the songs. And yeah, I heard the record before. The Physical World wasn't crazy on it. This one I liked a good bit more. I think it starts out really well, turned out Romantic Rights, Going Steady. Bunch of really good songs, really up until Blood on Our Hands, which I think is just kind of all right. Yeah, I thought Black History Month was rad, but then the 2 after, Little Girl and Cold War, it's kind of the point where I'm not feeling it as much. Title track's awesome. I loved, maybe my favorite song is Pull Out, that 1:50, super short, to the point, killer track. I think it closes kind of weakly with Sexy Results. It's a good song, but it's one of the weaker cuts on the record. And on the whole, I feel like this one, it's pretty short, only 35 minutes, 11 tracks. I feel like on a re-listen, it's like it kind of revealed itself a bit more, while with the other ones, I was kind of picking out more layers, things were growing. Well, this one kind of stayed the same, and as such, kind of fell to the bottom. But it's still 3.5 stars. I still think it's a pretty damn good album. And if somebody was thinking, hey, I really need some random ass punk record from the mid-aughts that's got like this nice feet on the floor rhythm or something. Yeah, I mean, you can't do much better than Death from Above, I suppose. So still a good album, just happened to be my least favorite of the 5. So
I'd say we're pretty much almost identical on that, except for Blood on Our Hands. I do love that track. Fair. But I do agree that Little Girl and Cold War pretty weak. I love Pull Out. Oh, I love Pull Out. It's it's such a good album to me, man. It's just, and like, again, it's only 35 minutes. It's such a short, just
it's
nice,
super listenable,
bite-sized little bite-sized songs. A lot of energy throughout them, cool layers, lots of sounds, just really cool little group. Absolutely. I like them a lot,
especially for just a 2-piece. Really
right,
cool stuff.
100%. And then I don't know, you hear what's that other band? I hate to put another band down. Royal Blood, I think, is the other one that's it's a bassist and a drummer. And like they've had good songs, but like I don't know. I'd take Death from Above 1979. I'd probably take every song on that album. Well, not every song, but I'd take probably that whole album over any other album by Royal Blood. 100%. All right. So
take that, Royal Blood fans.
Okay. Oops. Sorry. I'll say this. if you're a Royal Blood fan and you haven't heard Death Room of 1979's "You're a Machine, You're a Woman, I'm a Machine," do yourself a favor. I promise you'll love it. Number 4, and this one fell, and I hate to say that it fell because I like it. It's more that the other one, it's kind of similar to what you said. The other ones took a bigger leap up. This one hit hard to begin with, and it kind of stayed about the same, but it is Randy Newman's "Sail Away." So I like this a lot more than I expected. My only knowledge of Randy Newman was that he did the theme song to the show Monk. That was all I knew. And he was a Family Guy bit where he has him singing, very exaggerated, of course. So I'm thinking of him as like, I don't know, that's all he is. And it was kind of, why haven't I looked into this guy? And then Sail Away came on, and I was like, damn, why have I not looked into this guy? Sail Away was so beautiful. Beautiful piano. Love the orchestral elements. Such a good track. Wow. I was immediately, as soon as I heard that, I was like, I'm so in. I'm so in. Lonely at the Top sounded exactly what I expected Randy Newman to sound like, but in the best way possible, where it was like, oh no, like those are like, satire kind of things. Well, not the theme song, but like the exaggerated Family Guy bit, it's exaggeration. He does sound really good. He's got a really good character to him. The instrumentals are so beautiful throughout this whole entire album. The piano playing is so beautiful when the guitars come in on certain songs. Like Last Night I Had a Dream had a really nice little guitar part. That was the only one I didn't like his vocals. I feel like I don't know about him trying to reach into that higher register. I don't know. Didn't hit well for me, but not a knock. I didn't hate him. It wasn't Charmer. But it was, it was good. It was good. Loved Simon Smith and the Amazing Dancing Bear. The outro of that song was also just really a little piano part going out there. And then like Political Science, I loved like the jauntiness and the piano part throughout that. Very touching lyrics as well. Really, really liked the lyrics on that song. So yeah, but again, I liked this album a lot more than I thought. I'm very actually curious as to what you would recommend next to check out for Randy Newman. But for this one, he was going to be, I think, my third favorite, and he fell to my fourth favorite. But he did get a solid 4.
Damn, I did fucking good.
Yeah.
But anyways,
break my heart.
Yeah. For follow-ups, I would say if you're really into the orchestral stuff, his debut, that's pretty much all orchestral pop, came out at 68. Totally displaced from rock and roll. Super weird. Awesome. My Money, though, Good Old Boys, that's kind of him attacking the South. The song Rednecks. He would not be alive today if that came out. Let's just put it like that. But yeah, that record's awesome. I love it a lot. As well, Little Criminals, I hear, gets a lot of love, has a lot of like the Eagles playing on it and stuff. So that's a pretty cool record as well. Newman is one that Sail Away it overshadows the discography for me, but he still has plenty of good stuff. However, I'm sorry, because I know that this one's going to hurt. At number 4 for me, I had Liquid Swords by GZA. Here's the thing. This one actually grew. This was my bottom initially, but it's at number 4 now. I'm still at 3.5 stars. Still pretty damn good. This one definitely grew along on a re-listen, though. Initially, I just wasn't feeling the beats. I wasn't really that deep into his flow. Second listen through, probably because it was a more passive listen, sort of throwing it on in the back. Stuff was killer, just hearing him go off in the back. Really love the features on here. Because I'm not the biggest fan of GZA by himself. I think he's good, mind you, but I think that whenever you pair him up with like Ghostface Killah and Method Man, it's really whenever he shines on stuff like Fourth Chamber. I thought Shadowboxing was great, Investigative Reports. My favorite on here, though, has to be Bible, the closer. That song is just, the beat goes incredibly hard, to put it lightly, and his flow is unmatched across the rest of the record there. One of the best closes I've heard on a record in a while. And I don't know. There's just nothing really wrong for me to say about it. It's just really good flows, really good beats, just not really personally what I reach for a lot of the time. I think it's good, and I highly respect what it is. It's just, aside from like my top tracks, I'm probably not going to go back to the album per se, but it's still really good. Still 3.5 stars, still perfectly enjoyable. So still dug it a lot. I liked all these albums. So
I feel you. Hey, I'll take it. Especially because I mean, he didn't really say anything bad. Just beats all that. I mean, he really is definitely like if I'm ranking my Wu-Tang members, he's probably a solid fifth. I mean, a lot of the people who are I mean, come on, man. Ghostface Killer is probably the best. RZA's up there. I personally love RZA the most, but people would swap them back and forth. Method Man, I'd probably even take Raekwon. I mean, also Old Daddy Bastard, just because I love the energy that he has, you know. But Jizza is also just fan freaking tastic. But yeah, that's one that I think I love almost every song. I think every song is like a 4.5 for me on that, at least. With of course a bunch of fives too. The opening track, I love all those kung fu samples. That's just iconic of Wu-Tang. All like a lot of their stuff.
I really
really
like how they
sets
work that in.
atmosphere.
I really like how they
100%.
work that in. It kind of reminded me of off an album. I'm blanking on the name of it. From the 2005 record by M83. There's actually a track where it's like this mother and her daughter like running away from like a killer or something, and it really reminded me of that. Which, to clarify, that song is way better than I'm making it out to be. The amount of suspense drawn in that song is absolutely killer. You might hear me about that record later today. You won't.
Boy, excited. But oh man, that's this is really turning out interesting. Now I'm really interested in what your next one's going to be. For me, my number 3, it's going to be Husker Du with New Day Rising. I got strong like Ramones vibes. Like definitely, I feel like that took. Oh man, I took like, but just heavier and like more distortion. But I felt, I don't know, when I was listening to song 1, first thing I thought I was like, this is the Ramones went like heavy, like much more into punk than just like that kind of like surface level, kind of almost kind of proto, kind of starting it out and kind of breaking ground on it. But instrumentation throughout was really cool. Loved the opener. I loved The Girl Lives on the Hill. A lot of 6 solos throughout that track. Oh, that song was super cool. If I Told You sounded like if REM went harder in punk too. I don't know, that almost that guitar sound that they had on the intro and like during the chorus. I was like, I feel like I would hear that in an REM song, just cleaner, everything around it instead of like that kind of distorted tone being more cleaner tone. Also, so much great bass on this album. Celebrate Summer had a cool bass line. Terms of Psychic Warfare, that bass line throughout was so good. And then perfect example was when I figured out who the singer really sounds like. David Bowie. This sounds like David Bowie on this track so hard. And I was like, all I could think of was his voice on that album. And then I kind of went back and I was like, I could see it if, I don't know. Listen to that track again and with that in mind. They had the same kind of like really low singing sound.
Yep. What track was that again?
Sorry. Perfect Example.
I'll give that a spin as soon as we're done here.
59 Times the Pain had another really cool intro. Love the drums on that. Books About UFOs was a very poppy track, which was very interesting, but I liked that quite a bit as well. The only track and the only thing that brought this down from being number 2 was How to Skin a Cat. It's experimental and I respect it, but I just don't like it. I don't know what to say. It's what it is. It's fine. I've heard worse, but it was all right. But it did hurt the album just a little bit for me. Brought it down to basically a solid to strong 4. So, but still kick ass. And I want to check out more of their stuff because it is literally like hearing everything that I love and hearing like the roots of it.
Nice.
So I do love that.
That's the most heavy, the most distorted they ever got, I would say. Other records, while maybe being a bit more hardcore, a bit more sort of energetic, that's the one where like the guitar tones are just crushing, crazy in your face. And I love the shit out of that. For me, that's another example of the album kind of overshadowing the other ones. However, if you ask our good friend Vanessa, Zen Arcade is one of her 10 out of 10s. So it's kind of like a double record, really cool. Yeah, I honestly thought for sure that was going to be like your number 1. So I'm really pulling for one of the two options left to be your number one, but I know it's not going to happen, so it is what it is. Anyways,
I think you'll be happy with whatever's number one at this point.
oh yeah, honestly, you're debating between an album I think is absolutely fantastic in the top 50 of all time, which what's really the separation there? So,
right.
At my number three, this is one that I was definitely surprised by. And I was really more so surprised by the fact of you giving it to me. Because I have a history of not being a big punk fan, but Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables was pretty damn good. I'm still at 3.5, but I still like it. I like all these records, so yeah, I thought this is like everything I want in punky music. It's really raw, it's really like aggressive, straight to the point. Um the vocalist, I'm blanking on his name.
Joe
I
Biafra.
I cannot say that, but
I don't blame you.
He's just this absolutely killer on this. I love he has like this weird kind of almost like geeky character to him, to put it lightly, but like it's so good because he's going at it with such aggression and such power to him. He really just charges through these songs. The band behind them, he's just fast, up in your face. Reminds me a lot of like X at points. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but that's like my favorite punk band. And I get like it's like because he reminded me a bit of him. John Doe. It reminded me a bit of John Doe. Because he's really expressive, really out there, killer.
His name is really John Doe.
Yeah. Poor guy. my first time around earlier on, wow. My first time around, I was like, okay, I really love Kill the Poor. I think that song is great, lovely punk song. I wasn't crazy about Forward to Death, but when you get drafted, awesome. Same with Let's Lynch the Landlord, but Drug Me to Stealing People's Mail is just all killer, no filler, just straight up headbanging punk to the core. I didn't love Funland at the Beach or Ill in the Head, but Holiday in Cambodia and Viva Las Vegas might be my favorites on here, especially Holiday in Cambodia. That's like extending out their punk songs into like this massive jam, but you still have the singer going crazy all over it. I don't know. This was a record I was really into. I only have it at 3.5, but I could definitely see it going up, and highly, highly makes me want to check out more Dead Kennedys, which it's only 4 records, so what reason do I have not to? But yeah, number 3 is going to be Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, 3.5. Still really dig it. Dead Kennedys.
Do a music meltdown for them? I'm 100% there. 100%. But yeah, 100% agree. Just this I've always said that this is the epitome of punk for me. This is just like you said, it's loud, it's fast, it's in your face. It's not like ironic or subtle. It is telling you exactly what the fuck it thinks. And it's gonna and it doesn't give a care like what you think. But California Uber Allies is just one of those like just again, one of those like just perfect punk songs to me. The hard drums, the hard bass riff, the guitar when it comes in, and just that iconic opening line, so good. And then I also love Chemical Warfare too. I loved how it has that waltz part right at the end before the band gets gassed and they start like coughing and everything starts going to shit and like this it gets like all noisy. Absolutely one of them, just such a good. I'm so glad you liked that. I was afraid you weren't going to like that. So that's super cool. All right. So for my number 2, my number 2 is going to be Black Dresses with Peaceful as Hell. This was one that was very interesting. This one is another one that definitely benefited from a second listen. This was originally my 4th on my list, with a probably like a strong 3.5 maybe. I don't know. Music like this, I'm definitely someone who has to marinate with music. I have to sit with it. I have to hear it on. I usually listen to it like almost in the background on a first listen, and then dive in on a second listen when I have a little familiarity with it. And I'm kind of like, there's points in like the album that I want to hear, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait until like, where was that part? I wonder where that part was. And like here, okay. That's kind of one of the ways I try to kind of go about these albums. I really liked the feel of it though. I don't know. I love albums that have like dark feels to them. I don't know. Call me edgy. I was an emo kid when I was in high school and middle school. It was just who I was. Never really grew out of it. I just got more hippie like. But Like Left Arm of Life was such a cool opener, really gothic feel to it. That first verse from Ada 2, the lyrics on that, shit, killer. Damage Suppressor was really cool. Love the aggression, this like that scream kind of near the end of it. Angel Hair had that cool little synth part that was kind of playing during some of those during the verses, which was super cool. Also, probably my favorite chorus on the album. Really liked the hook on that one. I'm a Freak because I'm always freaked out. Had a really cool breakdown section, which I loved. Mirror Girl was the best track on the album. So punky, so cool. I loved the bell sound that was on that chorus. It was kind of dinging throughout it. So cool. Really give me like, have you ever, I don't know if you've ever heard of Clipping, but Clipping is a rap group and I got a real strong sense from them.
Okay. I'm familiar. I don't know the music though. They were on my radar when I was more adjacent to Fantano Core, if that makes sense.
I feel you. I totally get that. That's definitely something I want to eventually recommend. It's not going to be on these 5, but it is the instrument, especially the bell sound. I feel like the production on that felt so similar to something I would hear on like Clipping, just more in like a rap feel to it. And then Sharp Halo was very creepy. It was very it was like if Lingua Ignota did like an industrial metal track. Maybe not Lingua Ignota. She's not, it didn't have as much like that like operatic like screaming and stuff like that. But like I guess the atmosphere was just a very creepy, very horror inspired. I really liked some of the like the off-key melody sounds that were going on during the verses and everything. For that one, gave it a strong 4. But definitely another album. It was just a really good album that I definitely needed that re-listen, but I really like the sounds they have going on there. I didn't know what I expected. And it certainly really wasn't this. And then once I kind of adjusted that, it started to really click for me.
I think describing it as hyperpop might be a stretch. It's far more industrial, kind of noisy. Yeah. Almost like
I did originally sound it as hyperpop. And then it was just kind of like, as I was listening to it again, I was like, it's really more, there's a lot of like,
it's very layered in what
it's very industrial.
The one thing,
industrial electro metal is what I called it.
Fair enough. I mean, if this is metal, this is my favorite metal album of all time. So
there's metal influences, 100%.
Oh, for sure.
I'm a freak because I'm always freaked out. That ending section was.
There's like
I was like,
it's like the heavy growls and stuff. I love it. I will say that I am a little upset that Please Be Nice and Creep You didn't come up because I feel like the most underrated part of this record, this is going to sound crazy. I think that these songs are incredibly melodic, despite the chaos and all of the industrial elements going behind it. Their writing just not beautiful, but they're writing incredibly catchy and memorable hooks and melodies that I think is really the highlight. And that's kind of where I get the hyperpop influences on it, especially on Creep You, when they're just going creep you out. Just the way that they're singing that is so delightful. And I also love the Please Be Nice, Don't Be Mean, It's in Your Computer Screen. It's just like, oh, that song is so good. I absolutely love it lyrically too. I think it's really understated how raw and how just killer they're able to be from they're mean. They're rude and I love it.
Oh yeah.
So anyways, top 2. Here's what I'm gonna say. I think we had dream number 1s. I think they came true, my friend. Because my number 2 is Home Like No Place There Is by the Hotelier. Just blew this man's mind.
I love it. I'm geeking.
This one grew on me, the re-listen. Unfortunately, it came out in 2014, so it can't be higher than 4 stars because it's the worst year in music, but still killer. I don't know. This one is like really modern emo. Definitely get like hints of Brand New, touches of like Bright Eyes, but there's still like some post-hardcore elements in there that I think is really cool. I don't really know how to describe this one as bluntly as I can. It has a very kind of homegrown nature to it. It's never really that aggressive or that heavy, but you definitely feel that sort of emo influence. So if you're anybody who's slightly irked by like a touch of emo, run away. If you're looking at my System of a Down t-shirt and nose ring, you should know that shouldn't hurt me, however. Yeah, I just thought of this record, it's so fun. I don't really have a specific song I would point out. The second track, The Scope of All This Rebuilding, I think that one's one of the more faster, more punkier, moments, and it's just really fun. I don't know. This record, it's pretty deep. It's kind of darker, but it's got that like emo energy that I'm just like, it's got like a sense of melodrama to it that I just found myself getting into. I don't know. This is a sound that I'm kind of nostalgic to. It's only 36 minutes, 9 tracks, but I feel like they utilized their time well. Just a really enjoyable record front to back. I am at 4 stars for Home Like No Place There Is by the Hotelier.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning the intro. What was your thoughts on the intro? You said like there's
Oh,
something you would have liked way back or something.
let me look at that. I think that was when I wasn't really digging the vocals. No,
Oh,
what I said
love
was
the vocals.
here's the thing, because I agree, the vocals really grew on me. But I think what I said was he's like emo to the perfect degree. Like his vocals piss you off in a sense that some of these emo singers do, but like in all the right ways. Like they hit those damage receptors in the back of your head, and I like it, if that makes sense.
That I love because I love the delivery of like that, how it's all building up, and then how it's just like when I slept for years on end, fuck, and then it just comes in with that explosion, and it's just like you're goddamn right. That's an introduction to the album because that it like especially the subject matter is describing. It's like you hear that song, you know exactly what you're about to be in for the next 30 some minutes. Absolutely. And then Your Deep Rest is like probably my favorite track off that. I like the play on words with the title, Your Deep Rest, You're Depressed. And it's, I mean, I'm sure if you read the lyrics, it's a friend's passing, it's a friend's suicide, but the way how the chorus is changing in each way that it's kind of almost describing a different situation or kind of the singer's thoughts towards like how he feels about how the family feels and how he should be feeling going into the future with things. It's really touching, and just someone who's dealt with someone who's passed in that manner. It was just, for me, that was a super touching song. Sometimes gets hard for me to listen to, but love that song. Probably easily my favorite. And Among the Wildflowers is just so beautiful too.
For sure.
But that's bordering on a 5 for me. I love that album so much, man.
I can see why. It's just 2014 for me. That year, just I like a lot of albums, but nothing can cross over the hump.
You know, let Hotelier embrace it.
So far,
let
the closest
2014.
So far, the closest I've gotten is Mitski. Mitski's been the one that's closest for me. So, but that's some bullshit. I said that like 2020 core, that would have been all over me because that was when I was first getting into music, and I was like at the height of my like Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, brand new fandom. It's the peak of my like edgy teenager phase. So like if you gave that to me a couple of years ago, would have been all over that.
So many. Your taste, your former taste is my former taste too.
And so we come from a similar 100%. Path, just 10 years apart.
I've never really let go of that music. Yeah. A lot of people drop it or say they grow out of it. I still like it. I don't care. Like, for sure. It means a lot to me.
Yeah. I'd say it's less that I necessarily grew out of it, and more so it's just with how much music I choose to consume and how deep I've gotten into it. It's almost like I feel embarrassed to like it because, you know, it's kind of shunned upon in certain spheres. Mind you, I still have Fall Out Boy 5 stars. I still have 4.5 for the Black Parade. I still have remnants of it. It's just
that's too low for Black Parade, by the way.
We'll see. Meet me in October.
Don't make me put Black Parade on
there. I've heard that record at least 10 times, man. You don't have to. You're just giving me a treat. It's really good.
So much.
It's great.
So, number 1, Chumbawamba, Anarchy. This is another one. I've seen that Mike the Snare video. I've always been very interested in exploring them. Just, it's so big of a discography. Didn't know really where to start. And what a perfect opportunity to get into it. I've always loved Get Knocked Down, or Tub Thumping, as most people, you know, as it actually is called. But it's, I've always loved that track. I've always loved like the feel of it. You know, obviously I get that it's super cheesy. I get that it's, you know, super commercial. It's super pop. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. But man, I've always kind of wanted to hear more of like that sound. And this is that sound, but done like better, more seriously, more like, you know, tastefully, just hitting all those boxes. Give the Anarchist a cigarette, bro. Oh, I love that song. Oh my god, I love that song. That song has been on my playlist. I have been listening to that almost all week. I love that song way too much. Cool bass line. I love the refrain. I love the or the trumpets. Oh my god, every second of that song is just glorious. Time Bomb. I love the Buffalo Springfield reference going on in that one. Just really cool. Tiki Tiki Time. I love that song. Good song. Those first three songs, and then Homophobia, with that almost like that Irish cadence kind of going on in the I think it was in the verses. Really cool. Sounded really, really cool. I also loved how they had a lot of like dance beats throughout this. Heaven and Hell had a really strong dance feel to it. This year's thing also had a strong dance feel to it. I feel like Love Me was almost like a new wave inspired track. Really cool. Bad Dog, also really loved that song. Mouthful of Shit, another song I really liked. Man, this was a fun album. This was super cool. I need to listen to more Chumbawamba. This got a solid 4.5 for me. Loved it.
Nice. I knew you were gonna get into that one. And it had me because it's got like that quirkiness of all the music that you're into, but it's got like that punk energy. But you as well have like these really cool dance elements, like EDM influence. Felt very adjacent to you. However, going into a record that did not feel very adjacent to me, that I had no clue what to expect, that I really enjoyed. I'm topping at 4, but it's a solid 4. A really good record, an 8 out of 10. For Tales of the Inexpressible by Shpongle. What the fuck did I listen to? Here's what I'll say. I actually listened to this one 2.5 times because this is the one that I started, and then like Title kicked me off. And then I listened to Death from Above because it was shorter and I had to go into work in like 2 hours. So, but I was really getting into it. This record is so bizarre. It's like progressive, but you also have these cool folky elements, but you as well have like these biting EDM parts to it. God, this record is so weird. For the most part, it's predominantly instrumental, which is something that I'm not crazy about most of the time, but I felt that it worked really well here. And I'm not sure the players on here. I'm not sure if it's like properly a band, if it's just like a collective of musicians. This is like a one guy led project or woman, but it's just so unique and fascinating. The opener Doorstep Perception is just really blissful at points, but it really does showcase the record incredibly. Star Spangled Banner is really good. A New Way to Say Hooray. My favorite track on here, perhaps shockingly so, is near the end with Around the World in the Tea Days. This is like a 2000s progressive epic at this point. It's like bringing in these cool EDM flavors, but you have these naturally like high level musicians just like riffing and jamming with each other. It's super unique. And I don't know. My main issue is length. I don't think it needs to be 70 minutes long. You could probably trim a minute or two from some of these jams. And hell, you could probably take half the jams on here and put it into an entirely separate record. But that's not an issue with it. It's just a ton of music to take in, and it's a really big listen. But it's just super unique, super compelling. And I can't, I get why you're really into it because I'm really into it. And I think that it is super, super interesting. Have it at 4 stars. I really like it. Shpongle, Tales of the Inexpressible. You were not seeing that coming.
Blown away.
Yeah.
Blown away. Also, just to point it out, another play on words in the title, Around the World in 80 Days, Around the World in 80 Days. The famous book, famous movie, forget what it was. Some famous cultural thing. But a little play on words there. I love the vocals whenever they come in.
Oh, yeah.
Doorstep Perception has that beautiful vocal part. Once Upon the Scene of Blissful Awareness also has a really cool vocal part. I think my favorite song still, My Head Feels Like a Frisbee. It just has such a cool Latin feel to it. It's just, it really evolves throughout the whole song. It has so many different like feels to it, but it's still like almost the same. It's so cool.
I'm sorry to be that person. That one didn't click with me on the first time. I thought that there was like a mood on those first 4 that kind of like all play into each other. I feel like the Latin stuff kind of came out of place. I liked it more on the second listen, but
okay,
it kind of took me out the first time. I'm still at 4 stars from the start, but
yeah,
I
feel you.
I feel like it's a little. I wish it was incorporated into another song as opposed to just starting, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Still really cool though. Still interesting nonetheless. So
Love it, love it. That's so crazy. I'm so happy that was your favorite.
yeah,
And also, just not to ever promote it, but if you ever do dabble in any kind of psychedelics, this needs to be on that list. Because, like, I agree with the idea that, like, if drugs make music good, then it probably wasn't good music. But this is good music that's super enhanced by that and is like very much for that state of mind. Is very much made for that state of mind where your perception is slowed down. You're really focusing on the different elements that are going on in that. It's a wild listen, but yeah, that's so cool. I'm so happy that was your favorite, dude. That's so cool.
if I ever get around to you, perhaps we can try that. Perhaps.
Hey,
I'm still young.
absolutely. I will be your shaman. I will guide. Will guide
Regardless,
you.
though, that was fun. These were an enjoyable batch of records. I was
Absolutely.
really worried going into this about some stuff. Notably, Dead Kennedys. I was kind of worried about because I'm kind of iffy on punk, but I thought that was pretty cool. And I don't know, even though I didn't get to like 4.5, 5 stars or anything. So it's cool to hear some new records that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm glad to have done this.
Absolutely.
However, we have another business to address. The next batch of 5. Starting out, I did this to where I have 1 5-star, 2 4.5s, and then 2 4s. The first record I'm going to give you is the 5. It's going to be by a band that I'm 90% confident that you haven't heard because like 10 people ever have heard them. And I think that they are one of the unsung great indie bands of the aughts. I'm going with the record The Dust of Retreat by Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos. This is a super weird record. Think like a really twee American Arcade Fire and like Funeral, because this is like a big piece band. You got like some of those more out there instrumentation parts. Richard Edwards, I absolutely love his voice, and he's one of my favorite lyricists of all time. On here, songs like Skeleton Key, On a Freezing Chicago Street, and it's gonna sound weird. The track Paper Kitten Nightmare. Kitten makes sense whenever you listen to it, fits in brilliantly. I'll leave it at that. Dust or Retreat by Margaret and the Nuclear So-and-Sos. And
All
to
right.
clarify, listen to the '06 version. That one has the better track listing and the better flow of the songs. So I've always heard it as the '06 one.
Okay. Will do. And definitely send these to me.
Oh,
So that's a long title name.
not that long. It's only 4 words.
The band name I found.
Well, the band name.
Sound like a lot of words.
Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos. One word's used twice, so it's okay.
So and so's.
Margot.
I mean, isn't that 3 words? It's 3 words. So and so's.
Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos, but they use the word "sos" twice. So
Okay.
I don't know.
I say you're playing these technicalities now.
Yeah.
All right. So for my first one, we're gonna do Anderson .Paak, Malibu, which is probably another one of my favorite albums from the 2010s. Really soulful. You're gonna hear a lot of like. Did you like Silk Sonic?
I really like that record.
I think you're gonna jive with this record.
I'm
really cool. The opening song of this album is so good, and the rest does not let you down. So good. Anderson .Paak has a lot of freaking talent, of course. Stellar drummer, stellar singer, stellar vibe, personality, charisma. Everything that he does just leaks through into his performance, into the way he plays. Super cool record. I'm excited to see what you're going to think of that one.
Nice. Yeah. I heard Silk Sonic, really dug it. It's one that kind of lessened on me as I kept going back to it, but still really good. Probably like top 15, 2021. Really good record. So I've been meaning to look into him. Just didn't know where to start. So this is going to be cool. This next one, probably a bit out there, but I think that you're going to really get into this. This was a jazz artist who kind of turned into a bit of an art rock artist on this record. She was in Rolling Stone's top 50 bassist list. It's going to be Emily's D Plus Evolution by Esperanza Spalding. This is an album that I'm only familiar with because of Taste Like Music. Cram had it win in 2016, and it knocked me off my feet. It is just so sensational. think if Sade leaned heavier into the jazz sensibilities, but she like got into a party with Kate Bush during the Dreaming era. It's super unique, super interesting. And the track on here, Unconditional Love, is beautiful. She has a cover of a song from Willy Wonka to close out the record, and it fits the album brilliantly. Her vocals are sensational, and the bass lines just absolutely shred. I was telling you about it before whenever you brought up a song called Unconditional Love somewhere. This is the album with that song. Killer. Absolutely love it.
I'm excited. I love me some good bass. So
yeah.
Love it. I'm ready for that. This next one.
Yeah, another bass album on here too, so don't worry.
I am so sorry for what I'm doing to you for this next one. Because for my next one, I'm doing Marilyn Manson's Antichrist Superstar. Yeah, we're doing that.
Yeah. It's fine. Listen to that shit twice.
You have?
It's fine. No, I have to.
You listened to
it twice. I have not.
Oh, okay. All right. This is easily his best work, in my opinion. This is the one that is produced with Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. Has them together, basically working on this. It is a rock opera, so it does have a story. It's following the whole way through. The main character is basically Marilyn Manson, so it's very in your face. It's very industrial. It has a lot of crazy, nice rocking parts. I used to love this album a lot. I keep going back to it every now and then, and I still really do like it. Yeah, Marilyn Manson is a complete twat though, as a human, and a complete shit stain. So if you can find, I don't know, bootleg it if you can, if you want to not give him any listens, but also realize you'd have to listen to him about like 200 times in order to give him $1. So I think 2 listens or 1 listen will be, you can give him a less than a penny.
I'll download the full
merch.
I'll download the full album and I'll listen to it that way. I won't pay
torrent
for it,
and then delete it.
Absolutely.
Don't even seed it.
I'll delete it before I listen to it, and I'll just fake a review.
Oh,
but anyways, no. Talking about bass, talking about one of my favorite bass players on this record, one of my favorite bands of all time. Talking about my man Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone with their 3rd record, Life. This is one that took a while to grow on me. This is kind of like the perfect blending of their early pop sound, like pop funk, pop soul, but you're getting into these heavier, funkier grooves, but you still got that great melodic sensibility from the band. And the closing track, Jane is a Groupie, is it's so good. There's also a track on here called Chicken that's like so fun. It's so goofy, where Sly Stone is like impersonating a chicken in it, but it fits in. You got Larry's absolutely sensational bass groove during it. I think that you'll find plenty to love there. So I'm excited. Life by Sly and the Family Stone.
Definitely interested. I've heard a lot about him. I've heard a couple of songs. Definitely excited to hear a full album.
Nice. Top 10 artists for me. So
absolutely. For this next one, this is going to be possibly one of my top albums of all time, in my opinion. Easily one of the best hip hop albums of all time. Very underground, although he became very above ground because people just realized how fucking good he was. And it's Mad Villainy.
I have heard that one.
You have?
I've heard it twice, actually. I have the 4
Okay.
stars. I like it.
That's good. I have a backup.
My issue with it is I think that the songs are a bit too short. I wish that less songs a bit more fleshed out.
It's also like, what, 20 songs?
Yeah, that's
almost
the issue.
Like 40 something minutes. I mean,
that's like my biggest pet peeve in music is the thing. I don't like albums that are like super short songs, but tons of tracks. If that makes sense. Because I need there to be like a good meat to really sink my teeth into, if that makes sense.
In that case, I was not ready for this because I was going to have I had a different song. I had a different album I thought you knew.
I know.
But I do have a backup. Have you heard Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style?
Not heard Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style.
And that's what we're going with. Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style. This is, you want to talk about funk? You want to talk about what G-Funk was? This with Dr. Dre's production is absolutely ridiculously good. I think you're gonna love this album. The production is, of course, fantastic. It's fucking Dr. Dre working it. Uh, it's easily Snoop's best album, as I don't think he's ever put out anything that is as that I don't even think touches this. I don't even think all his albums combined touch this. This is another one that I do think is like it's in the top 25 rap albums for me personally, probably. Really cool. I actually think you're really gonna like this one.
Nice.
So I got my backups.
Alrighty. So I'm not familiar with the Snoop Dogg, but I'm familiar with NWA. I'm familiar with Dre to a certain degree. I wanted to pull this out because I got this for Christmas like 2 years ago, but I've still not heard it. It's the Chronic on vinyl.
So, not heard it.
Not heard it yet.
Why? You
I
have
don't
it.
know.
It's right there. You have the vinyl thing right behind you. There's a vinyl player right there. I see it.
It's
actually sticking on right now.
That's a book.
It looks like a vinyl player
with like some CDs.
It looks like a vinyl player.
No, I agree with you. But yeah, for another time, my friend, for another time. But we are going to the 90s with my pick, though. We're going to Canada to talk about one of their boys and bringing up Vanessa again with a band that we did together. Talking about One Chord to Another by Sloan. They're a really cool kind of power pop outfit, very Beatle-esque kind of. Think if like Rush, Beatles, and Cheap Trick were all stuck into a blender. They got like a ton of different songwriters, but really crazy power pop influence, but you got like those classic rock sensibilities in there. They're a really cool band. I think there's going to be plenty to enjoy here. And I think it's not quite something that I'm not sure how big on power pop you are, so figured that could be a fun one. One Chord to Another by Sloan.
Power pop's an interesting genre because, like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what it is, and every time I find something that says power pop, like, I'm very much told it is not power pop.
Think like Weezer self-titled.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that kind of music.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that this is like Weezer, but
Right. I feel you.
Yeah.
I have one here, but you put a lot of bass people on now, and now I want to give you a bass album.
I'd say lay it out there. I'd say lay out what you had. Yeah, we always got next time, so it's no worries.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. For next time, I've got that. I'll keep that one for next time.
Ooh,
for this one, I want to do probably one of my personal favorite bassists, Les Claypool and Primus.
Not familiar, but I know the name.
Yes.
I don't know what to expect from Primus. I'm worried.
You don't know what to expect. That's very true. And I will tell you that you can't expect what Primus is about to deliver because Primus is Primus. And I would say the best way you can describe him is funk metal.
Yeah.
But like, man, some of the bass licks on these songs are ridiculous. I do think you're gonna hate his voice.
What record?
Almost certain. We're gonna do. I'm gonna do my personal favorite, "Sailing the Seas of Cheese."
Okay,
that is my personal favorite. I do almost want you to hear "My Name Is Mud" off of Pork Soda, just because that bass line is nasty. Okay. It is so good. Nice. But Primus, "Sailing the Seas of Cheese," super fun, super cool. Excited.
I got a wacky one at the end here.
All right.
This is one that I don't think that you would ever have seen coming from me. We were talking about this theme in the past. We were talking about middle school, because that's kind of when I was like getting into music, late middle school, early high school. And there was one song that came onto my Spotify shuffle that I really loved by a band called Pierce the Veil. I'm going with their record Misadventures from 2016. I don't have a ton to say about it. Kind of like post-hardcore in a sense, edgy, like modern. How the fuck do I describe this band without just calling them dorks?
Describe a lot of my music that way, unfortunately.
I mean, hey, a lot of people.
Pierce the Veil, I do know them. I don't know that record.
I would say give their previous record, if you're willing to, Collide with the Sky, a shot, because that's the one that's kind of more well known and more well regarded. However, I got into them via Misadventures. I think it's got, I don't know, as Wikipedia describes it, is melodic metalcore and post-hardcore, and I'd say that's an apt description. The song on there, Floral and Fading, I think is awesome. As well, Phantom Power and Ludicrous Speeds. I don't know. I think Vic Fuentes, I don't know how you say his last name. I feel like that's going to be the make or break there because he's super whiny, super emo, but he has like those screams. And I was into it whenever I was like first in the music. Do not know if it's going to hold for me. Have not re-listened to it, but I'm excited to give it. I'm excited to go back to it more than anything. I have an alternative if you'd rather something else, though.
Oh no, give me
Okay.
Pierce the Veil, 100%.
I think this will be fun,
Especially with all the fancy music you're also giving me. It's nice to have a slice of chocolate cake on the side, you know.
Sure.
So it's not gonna be that's not musically nutritious, but it's just fun.
It's super different compared to everything else I gave you. I will say that.
I'm excited.
All right. Was that 5 for both of us, or do you still have one more?
I still have my last one.
Go ahead.
I hope you're gonna like this. I do. I don't think you will.
Oh no.
But that's my I don't know, pessimistic realist that lives inside of me, or cynical, I don't know, whatever you call it. Yeah, but we're gonna do Porter Robinson's 2021 album, Nurture.
Okay.
So, I know you talked about Fantanocore. Yeah. I knew Porter Robinson back when he was like playing with fucking Skrillex, like back in the Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites days. Porter has grown a lot in his music. His early stuff was definitely very basic dubstep, bro step kind of shit. Worlds was a huge step forward. And then Nurture is a piece of art. It is a very interesting listen. Has a lot of different has songs where it's going to be very almost, it's going to be more EDM inspired. It's going to have songs that are very instrumental, which I know you said you didn't like, so I do fear that part too. But the lyrics touch, especially on songs like Musician, Look at the Sky, Something Comforting, just a lot of really cool sound design, a lot of cool soundscapes that are made. Really builds a strong atmosphere, especially in a sense if you got to remember that this came out like in the midst of COVID. So this was kind of one of those, like, this was like a shining breath of fresh air to a really weird time for everybody. So I'm excited to see what you think. Porter Robinson's Nurture, great album.
I will say that was on my radar at one point. I kind of cast it aside because I kind of cast aside more instrumental, more EDM based music for a while. And I'm excited to give it a proper spin because I am very curious. My main worry is an hour long. That seems a bit much for that style, personally speaking. But hey, I just sat through 70 minutes of Shpongle twice, so I'm God at this point. I can do anything. With that being
fantastic.
It was really good, man. I liked it. With that being said, I really hope that you all enjoyed this. This is going to be a new series, hoping to maybe put out like 1 or 2 a month, perhaps. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully trying to get some other people on here too. Not saying that as an insult to you, mind you, but...
Oh, yeah, you're good.
With that being said, really hope you all enjoyed this and are going to stick around for more and more. You'll have a great one.